All right, here we go. This one's going to be a 9x25 Dillon test. Today we're going to be trying out some double tap ammo. So for the first one, that one is the 125 grain controlled expansion. Here's what that thing looks like. It does have your standard brass case and is rated 1700 feet per second. And for other one, that one is 125 grain bonded defense. Has your same standard brass case and is also rated 1700 feet per second. So we'll see how close we come today. So we are going to be testing out of our Glock 29. That one does have that 4.64 inch extended ported conversion barrel in it. And we'll be going through our gel. Those are 10% calibrated blocks. Do have a catch block behind that. So a total of 22 inches of gel, 4 layers of cotton tissue on the front. And like always, we'll set up our chronograph so you know hopefully pick up those impact velocities. So let's set up and see how these rounds do head to head. First one up will be that controlled expansion. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see what we did on that one. All right, so it looks like our impact velocity on that one was 1498, so definitely not the best. That's right around 357 sig area. Those ones were rated for 1700, so 200 feet per second less. We did just test some Underwood. That one was coming in 1600, so kind of disappointing there, but kind of typical for double tap lately. All right, so there's that hit. Looks like I got a pretty good shot on that block. You can see right down in there and a pretty decent star pattern so far. So let's check it out from the top. Oh yeah, definitely not too bad. Of course, not the biggest that we've seen, but still pretty impressive. You can see it came in, actually opened up really nicely. You can see some pretty good, spiral star cuts going all the way through that block. Looks like it did settle down maybe that last inch or so in that first block, and then we did make it into the second one in a pretty good way, as you can see where that straight line penetration right there. But let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the top. Like always, we'll cut these open later, get a little bit more accurate cross-section measurement. But from the top, looks like we're about 2 3/4. So like I said, definitely not the most, but still pretty good. I was hoping for at least 1600, but still pretty impressive there. And another super loud one. This Dillon's definitely loud. But looks like as soon as that thing came in, started to open up, you see those spiral cuts going through. Looks like about a little past halfway where it's starting to frag a little bit. You can see little tiny chunks of lead going in there. And then we did make it into that second one, and it looks like it did probably bounce off the bottom of the table, but luckily we were able to catch it and didn't go through the table. It's always a plus. So we're going to measure the majority of the track, and then we'll measure where that pedal kind of ended up dipping down. So it looks like we're about 2 3/4, so exactly the same from the top, and it looks like 3 inches where that pedal kind of dipped down. So still definitely good. And that round is resting right there. Hopefully you guys are able to see that. It is facing towards us, and at our leading edge we're at 8 inches. So I made it a total of 19 inches of penetration. So definitely quite a bit there. So we're going to set it for that bonded defense and see how that one does. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see what we did on that one. All right, so it looks like impact velocity on that one was 1522. So pretty much like the last one. You know, not very impressive. At least we got, you know, over 15 this time. But you know, that I'm not impressed, but decent. All right, so there's that shot. Looks like I got a pretty good hit. Once again, you can see right down in there in a pretty decent star pattern. So let's check it out from the top. Yeah, definitely not too bad. So kind of like the last one, looks like it came in, opened up really nicely. Looks like we did lose a petal out of the side, but we're getting some pretty nice star cuts, and we do have quite a bit of fragmentation. And looks like it did settle down, and we actually did make it into a second block, which is very surprising. Excuse me. The weird thing about these, they say that they are bonded, but they definitely don't act like a bonded bullet. Even at those a little bit lower velocities than they're rated for, they usually always come apart no matter what. I'm kind of liking the controlled expansion a little bit more than you know, the bonded defense, but still pretty impressive stuff. So at our measurement here on the top, looks like we're exactly the same, right at 2 3/4. So you know, very similar results as that last one. And let's see, hopefully you guys are able to see this here from the side, but it looks like pretty much same thing as that last one as well. Came in, opened up, you can see really small frags kind of going through, little chunks of lead. And then right here towards the end of that block, the last few inches, you can see where those big petals ended up shearing off. And then it did flatline, and we did make it into that second block. So let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the side. I believe we're at 2 3/4 from the top, and from the side we're about 2 1/4. So definitely a little bit less from the side than the top, but not too bad. And it looks like that round is facing upward, and they do load these with the Extreme X-Def bullet, very similar to the Gold Dot. Of course, they don't, you know, act like the Gold Dot, but and the reason I mention that, because later when I show you guys, you can see that little Gold Dot in the end of that bullet. But it looks like at our leading edge we're at 5.5 inches, so that's 16.5 inches of total penetration on that one. So you know, definitely not too bad. Would like to see that thing hold together a little bit better, but you know, still pretty impressive. So we'll check these out one more time from the top. So one on the right was that controlled expansion, one on the left was that bonded defense. So here's that controlled expansion, came in, opened up. This one definitely started fragging pretty good, peeling a little bit of those petals off, shearing some of that lead off. You can see it did settle down right there towards the end, and we did make it into our second block. It is that one there on the top. Hopefully you guys are able to see that. And here is that bonded defense, pretty much same thing, came in, opened up, very similar pass as that last one. And then right towards the end, that's when it looked like it peeled those petals off. And then same thing, flatline, and we did make it into our second block. So not too bad. So let's pull these rounds and see what they look like. All right, check those things out. Looks like they both got some really nice expansion. Of course, they did kind of make it to their breaking point, at least the one on the left for sure. But the one on the right was that controlled expansion. One on the left was that bonded defense, or the X-Def bullet. But there is that controlled expansion. Looks like it actually mushroomed out really nicely. Pretty uniform, which is very surprising. And you can see those petals peeled right back. They kind of started to peel over the base. Thing is still full of gel, but actually got some pretty decent weight retention. Like always, we'll get our you know, weights and stuff here at the end, pictures, all that good stuff. But yeah, actually very surprised. And I did test the 115 the other day, and it kind of reacted the same way. You know, it was moving a little bit faster, but it definitely held together a lot better. But here is that bonded defense. There's that little Gold Dot I was talking about. You can see right down in that bullet, but a little bit different story. This one pretty much peeled all the petals except for what looks like one straggler kind of hanging on there, kind of kicked out a little bit. Did make that bullet you know, pretty big, pretty wide. But yeah, they definitely don't hold together or react. I've tested these in SIG, Dillon, I believe 10 mil, and they just yeah, they just don't like that higher velocity, which is kind of surprising. I think they should stop calling them bonded and just call them a hollow point. But anyways, but there they are one time from the bottom. One on the right was that control expansion. One on the left was that bonded defense. And last time from the top. So like I said, guys, we'll rinse these, get our still shot, slow-mo, everything here at the end. But once again, that one was DoubleTap 125 grain controlled expansion versus bonded defense, and that was a 9x25 Dillon. Thanks for watching, guys. All right, so there's that cross section for that controlled expansion. You can see we definitely have some nice splits in here, really good spider webbing. You can see right down in that cavity. Same thing on this side. Really good looking stuff. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking right at 3 1/4 and averaging right around that 3-inch mark. So definitely not the most that we've seen from the Dillon, but still, you know, pretty impressive. It wasn't moving, you know, up to specs even out of that short barrel, but it was still some pretty good stuff. So let's cut it open. All right, and here's after being cut. So this bottom is the right side and this top is the left. So pretty much right at that 1/4 inch mark where it starts to open up and get some expansion. You can see that nice path going all the way through and some pretty impressive splits. It looks like it did drag in a little bit of cotton t-shirt, which is kind of surprising because those hollow point cavities are very small. But it definitely did quite a bit. And the good thing about these is they actually hold together. I did test the 115 grain the other day, and same thing, I think held together perfectly. It maybe only shed a petal or two, even at its higher velocity. So it's actually, in my opinion, better than that bonded defense, because that bonded defense, which is up here, you can already see those frags, it's coming apart. And you know, bonded, you would think it's not going to come apart. Anyways, same thing on this side. This top, it came in, opened up. You can see that nice spiral cut. Nice path going all the way through. Huge splits. This one's barely hanging on down there, but definitely some very impressive stuff. And you know, just over 1,500 feet per second, or I believe it was just shy of 1,500, is still great. You know, not the best for Dillon, because you know we'd hopefully expect out of that shorter barrel at least 16, but still did pretty good in my opinion. Like I said, it held together, which is the good thing. You know, because I have tested the controlled expansion in a couple different calibers, and they usually end up, I guess, shedding a little bit more. But every caliber I've tested for the bonded defense, they literally just blow up in there. They come apart. But just one more quick angle. You can see those nice star cuts going all the way through. Really deep too. Pretty impressive stuff. It's really jumbling it up there at the beginning. And same here on this side. You can really see how nasty that stuff is. But there we go. That one was that 125 grain controlled expansion. All right, so here's that bonded defense cross section. So this one definitely did pretty good, but it did not hold together as you would expect a bonded bullet to do. But you can see right down in there, pretty nice, you know, spider webbing down in there. Same thing on this side. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking and averaging right at the same, right at 3 inches. So still, you know, impressive. It's still right around that 357 SIG area. I've had 357 SIG exceed the velocities that we're actually getting from this, which is kind of surprising. But, you know, it still did pretty good. So let's cut it open. All right, so here's after being cut. So this bottom is the right side and this top is the left. So it looks like it was a little bit more delayed than other rounds, right around that 1/2 inch mark where it started to open up. And then you can see that path going all the way through. We didn't get the most damage. Like I said, it wasn't moving up to, you know, up to spec, up to par. It's a little bit low on velocity, but it's still doing pretty good. This one is the one that went just over 1,500 feet per second. I believe it's 1,522. So it still did good, just not, you know, what we were expecting. We're definitely hoping at least for another 100 feet per second. But you can kind of see that fabric down in that path. Still got some really nice tears. This side you can kind of tell. That one did have a pretty decent hollow point cavity, so you can really see where it came in, opened up, and started to dig a nice channel down in there. And then you can see that path going all the way through. But same thing, pretty clean cuts. This one did drag in a little bit more of that fabric, and it didn't shed as much, but it's this one on the left side. The petals that it peeled off were definitely a lot bigger than the last one where it kind of just fragged, you know, small pieces of lead. But it still did pretty darn good. So maybe one day we can reload that stuff a little bit hotter and see what it can do up to, you know, actual Dillon specs. But one more quick angle, you can really see how deep that kind of canyon is down in there. Pretty impressive. Definitely some nasty stuff. Like I said at the last one, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near the front end of it while it's going off, but it definitely wasn't up to par. But you can see right there, this stuff's barely hanging on. Nice big splits all the way down. But there we go. That one was at 125 grain bonded defense by DoubleTap. Thanks again for watching, guys.